All right. Welcome back. Level Up Grappling Podcast. New episodes, new year, new content. We are excited. And let me tell you, we have a bunch of exciting things in store for you this year. So sit tight with us and enjoy the ride because it's going to be pretty damn wild. Now, before we get into today's topic, we have a couple of tasks for you, very simple tasks. Number one, make sure you like and subscribe on all platforms. Okay. So if you're on Spotify, please make sure you like and subscribe on Spotify. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please like and subscribe on there. YouTube, now that I'm trying to get the YouTube up and running, please like and subscribe on YouTube. And the best thing you can do, and here's a task for you all. Every week, I want you all to share this podcast with 3 new people. It's not a big amount of people, 3 people at your gym, wherever you're at, just be like, send them an episode. Okay. That's all I need you to do. Pick 3 people because all you go probably train at big gyms or you're lifting weights somewhere, or you have people. This content is for everyone. If you know a high school coach that's teaching high school wrestling, okay, or you're a teenager and you're on the wrestling team, share it with your wrestling team, okay? So everybody share it with 3 people a week. We're not asking for much. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes you about 5 seconds to share an episode. So pick an episode, share it, boom. That's all we need to do. Every week, 3 episodes. I want to see how big we can make this thing. Okay, as we were telling you guys, last year we closed out for 2025, 37 countries and counting. We had a 999% increase in new audience listening from 2024 to 2025. Okay, that's literally almost 1,000%. So we appreciate each and every one of you. And I promise you, Adam and I have ideas, and the content we are going to be putting out for 2026 is going to blow your mind. And it's stuff that hasn't been done before. Completely revolutionary. Okay. And so we are going to provide clarity where there is ambiguity. And Adam, isn't that the subject of this week's podcast, ambiguity in grappling? Apparently so. So let's get right into it because Adam and I have talked about this a lot. And I think this is one of the things that when you take the time and the years to train, by the time you get to the black belt level, you start to get realizations, right? You're internalizing your process. And then you start to get these realizations that become more and more clear as time goes by. And one of them is, why is grappling so inherently ambiguous? And let's start to get some clarity about this. What do we even mean by this? Ultimately, because grappling isn't a fixed system and it's a problem-solving activity, it's an active problem-solving activity, you're going to have ambiguity. You're going to have gray areas constantly. That's why when you look at instructional videos, we all are taking instructional videos out of context. The instructional video isn't gospel. Why? Because no 2 bodies are the same. No 2 reactions are the same. No exchanges are ever the same. Okay? No matter how you look at it, it's just like it's always going to be different. Now, when we do what we do, there's going to be a general guideline. That's one of the reasons why, if you hear about Adam and I talking a lot, it's concepts versus techniques. We're looking at principles, context, different contextual foundational situations, right? Get your foundation fundamentals down. Very, very important. You have to get those fundamentals down. Why? Because of the ambiguity of the nature of grappling. There is no such thing as a catch-all answer. So when I see these instructional videos and they're trying to show this special arm lock, and this is the one that you're going to beat everybody with. No, the person you're going against, is their arm long or short? Are they fat or skinny? Are they turning over the way that they need to turn over to get that particular arm lock? Chances are they're not. And what's funny about this, for those of you that subscribe or follow me with my distance education program, when I make those videos, a lot of times you have to understand it's very hard for me to demonstrate something because I'll have people in the videos that they kind of know what I'm going to do and they're afraid of the pain. So they're reacting in a particular way that they're going against what I'm trying to show in the video. And this, we all have this. When you are an uke, okay, when you are the dummy for those of us that are teaching in a class, can you please just allow us to do what we're trying to show instead of fighting it out? Because yes, it creates ambiguity. And then we have to turn it into something else. Okay, well, if they do react this way, then you do this. So, Adam, give us some wisdom here. There is a tremendous amount of ambiguity in grappling.
There is. I mean, especially, any type of grappling that's across the board. But if we're talking catch wrestling, it's inherently, it's self-descriptive in the name. Catch as catch can. Grab what you can. That, by definition, is ambiguous. Yeah, I'm not hunting a certain submission. I'm not hunting a certain position. I'm adapting and going with whatever's happening at the time. That is the inherent ambiguous nature of grappling. And I mean, again, it comes down to stricter styles. Look to jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu has a set pattern. This is how we do an armbar. This is how we do an armbar from guard. You turn the head, grab the arm, throw the legs up, turn them over onto their back, lay back. There's our armbar. Okay, what happens if someone stacks me? I have to adapt that armbar. I get stacked high enough, I'm flipping right over. Going with that ambiguity, flipping right over and going into a belly down. That's I guess that's the ambiguous nature of grappling. Yeah, in general. If I'm adaptable, if I go with what's presented, if I'm constantly making adjustments, changing my strategy, my attacks, my defenses, it's a lot of grey areas, far more grey areas than striking. Yeah, a strike, someone's trying to hit me, I'm blocking it, slipping it, whatever it is, and I'm punching them back. It's very give and take type situation. I know I want to move out the way of a puncher. I want to catch the punch. Well, I don't want to get punched in the face. I want to punch the other person in the face. That's very simple, and usually the way we go about it, especially in the realms like Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, karate, any of the striking arts, a front hand punch, a rear hand punch, a front leg kick, a rear leg kick. There tends to be far less grey areas. Yes, there's still grey areas. Yes, people are innovative. People have different styles. People awkward. People are orthodox. People are southpaw. People very straightforward. They're forward fighters, back foot fighters, pressure fighters. There's a little ambiguity in everything that we do. Everybody's going to have their own personal style, their own take on it, what they're trying to achieve from it, what they favour. But grappling, there tends to be far more grey areas in that whole ambiguous nature type thing, and options and dealing with the situation. There tends to be far more ambiguity than there is in striking. Yeah, in boxing, kickboxing, a jab's a jab, a cross is a cross, no matter who does it. Yeah, in grappling, an armbar can be done so many different ways. It's not funny depending on what the opponent does.
That's very true. I think to kind of piggyback on top of that, and this is, I guess, one of the issues I have, just getting back to poking at instructional videos a little bit, which I don't mean to, because I understand the nature of wanting to learn, and I appreciate those that are getting instructionals to learn and develop themselves. The thing is techniques don't exist in isolation. And when we focus on just a particular technique in isolation, you're not getting the bigger picture, right? And when we step out and when we take that 30,000 foot view, that's when we start to see, I guess, the generosity of ambiguity in what you're doing, right? You see how broad these gray areas can be because It's just like these separate techniques are not just created in a vacuum, right? They're transition. And there's something else I picked up on something you said that I thought was quite brilliant. When we use the term catch as catch can, I mean, that is literally grab whatever you can, whatever's in front of you, twist it, crank it, rip it, whatever you have to do to finish. And I think that that is a stark contrast from, I guess you can say, the codification and the limitations within, say, BJJ, where the rule set tries to reduce the ambiguity. And I understand in a sense that when you put things in a more simplified black and white process, reducing that ambiguity, it helps or enables beginners to grasp, well, what do I do if? I mean, Adam, how many times have you heard somebody say to you, yeah, especially the jackass students, there's always the what if guy. Every time I do seminars, I say, hey, please don't be the what if guy. Let me get through the seminar. And at the end of the seminar, you can ask me as many what ifs if you want. And there always is one guy in the back of the room that kind of just cowers up and shies away a little bit because everybody knows, well, that's the what if guy in the room. Yeah, well, that's Chris. Chris is the what if guy. Save your what ifs to the end, right? But don't you think? I'm just kind of talking out loud here, or thinking out loud. It's almost like when you create all these extra rules, it kind of, in a sense, reduces the ambiguity to where you're creating a little bit more of a simplified black and white structure, especially for a beginner, in order for them to grasp the language. Do you
Of
think that's
course,
fair?
absolutely. I mean, by definition, a rule set is order. That's what rules do. They create an order of what you can and can't do. That in itself is removing ambiguity, or attempting to. It's limiting that ambiguity. As a white belt competing in a jiu-jitsu tournament, somebody pulls guard or somebody puts a knee shield across. I can't heal with them. Yeah, I'm not allowed to. Hence, the ambiguity of using that particular technique in that particular situation is taken away. And that is regardless of anything that you do, amateur Muay Thai. Yeah, you look at Lumpini Stadium Muay Thai and then look at an amateur Muay Thai fight where they've got pads, they've got headgear, they can't elbow to the head. It's removing the ambiguous nature of what could happen. That's some sort of problem for a beginner. I think by definition, literally by definition, in my opinion anyway, a rule set, any rule set, regardless of what it is, even down to the laws of society, removes ambiguity to an extent. Order by definition is the contradiction of ambiguity. And rule sets in what we do in a grappling context, those rule sets funnel the ambiguity. Yeah, it funnels it into a certain confine, a certain set of constructs that we call the rule set. It allows this, it doesn't allow that. That is order. Ambiguity or ambiguous nature is not confined. The definition of ambiguity is this will happen, that will happen, anything can happen. When you put in rule sets, that takes that away, or tries. It will never take it away, because things like grappling, combat sports, a lot of sports or active things are always ambiguous by nature. Anything can happen and usually does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but rule sets are an attempt to create a confine for that ambiguity.
It's a funny thing, right? Because when you look at, if we just take, like you're saying, just take the techniques. Let's say when you even reduce that rule set into very basic things, okay? Like in the IBJJF, they don't allow, there's no like heel hooks, certain leg locks and stuff like that. If you're in like white belt, blue belt, stuff like that. Even when you do all that, and you're still trying to perform certain techniques, you have to realize that it's going to change based on a person's body type. based on your fatigue levels, based on how much resistance they're giving you, or the even down to, and this is really getting microscopic here, but the direction of the resistance, right? A lot of times when you're locked in, let's say just like an arm bar, right? People can say, oh, well, this is how you get out of the arm bar, or this is how you finish the arm bar. Well, not necessarily, because if I'm turned just the slightest amount and I'm rotating myself differently than the way you were trained to do that technique, it's not going to work. So fundamentally, I think we have to, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have to actually embrace the ambiguous nature of grappling in order to develop ourselves with clarity. We have to embrace the ambiguity in order to get clarity.
Oh, I agree. I mean, but it will depend on the context of the individual training. If an individual is training purely and simply to compete and as a hobby to compete, go to ADCC, go IBJJF, whatever that is, the ambiguity will, again, as I say, funnel according to the rule set. If that's all that person is ever going to do, they don't have to worry about defending a heel hook at white belt because they know nobody's going to do it on them. So that ambiguity of, if I put my leg in the wrong place, something's going to happen, is gone. If you are training for self-defense, you have to add extra layers of ambiguity. It's like the opposite of a funnel. So with a rule set, it's funneling this way. With self-defense, it funnels this way, because then you have all the extras that come with self-defense situations, street fights also. You got multiple opponents, broken glass, concrete flooring and gutters, all these different sorts of traffic, etc., etc. All these, external things that can affect what you do. They all become, depending on, as the situation evolves and the environment evolves that's happening in, the more stuff that comes into that environment, the more ambiguous the grappling becomes. But that is the same with any combat, any self-defense. Even if I'm a boxer, and that's what I have for self-defense, if I'm there bouncing around like Muhammad Ali, and his mate comes up behind me and smacks me in the head with a chair, that's ambiguity right there. I need to have environmental awareness, what's going on around me. It changes. In a ring, I don't need to worry about that. A rule sets, again, goes back to my point. A rule set will funnel this way. Yeah. A realistic self-defense situation goes this way. The more outside of a construct of rules and stuff like that, the more outside of that, the larger the field of ambiguity. Yeah. And so if you're training to, I guess, be an all-round grappler for any situation, any rule set, any place, any time, anywhere, the whole catch type philosophy, or the old Brazilian, even the Brazilian challenge matches, the Bella Tudo, this, that will take on anyone, anywhere, anytime, any rules, doesn't matter. Then, yeah, you need to train very, very ambiguously. Yeah. And the thing is, I think for me, some of the things that I've always thought about all combat sports, not just grappling, but a lot of them, curriculums. Yeah, curriculums, really strict set curriculums, they don't really work for me, because they are working on the assumption that the opponent is going to react a certain way every time.
Mm-hmm.
Definition of human entanglement is ambiguity. And that comes in everyday life, let alone grappling, with everyday life, emotional interactions, interpersonal communication. Individuals do not act 100% of the time a certain way that can be predicted. It's like what you were saying before about that armbar. Yeah, does he twist the opposite way to the way that I've learned to do it? Once that happens, this is where ambiguity is supposed to kick in, but it doesn't, because the curriculum has been that structured and that set that the minute you do something that's not part of the curriculum that you've learnt, or they react in a way that's not what's dictated is the way they will react. That's where there's going to be, I guess, problems for that grappler. It's why I'm still a firm believer in it and still teaching. We've said it before. I teach concepts. I teach philosophies. I'm not teaching you a library of submission techniques. Yeah, I will teach you basic submission techniques, of course. This is about all these techniques. You know, you have a certain amount of techniques that you need to know in order to call yourself a competent catch wrestler, submission grappler, jiu-jitsu person. But learning the concept, learning them concepts and those philosophies and the understanding of biomechanics and ambiguity in grappling and the things that can happen, it makes a massive difference. Even to my jiu-jitsu training, when I'm coaching people, belts, when people are ready for belts for me, is when they have an understanding of concepts for that stage of their training, their stage of their journey. Yeah, white belts, everybody knows white belts are just surviving. They're just hoping for the best. That's the entirety of white belt. When you get your fourth stripe on your white belt, it's when you're sort of a little less hope and a little more planning. Basically, you know, blue belt understands that I'm going to be in bad situations, deal with it. Yeah, it's these little things and these little understandings that even in a jiu-jitsu contest, straight Brazilian jiu-jitsu contest, when I'm grading or someone, I don't work off, can you show me 10 different arm bars with the person who just goes, yep, and I'll go this way because that's what I'm told to do. And then I'll correct it and get an arm bar this way. That is not ambiguity at all. That is rehearsed reaction.
Yeah. Now, to your point, one of the things that I do that I kind of had to come to terms with to eliminate the what ifs, or I should say drastically reduce the what ifs. Because I teach positionally through concepts. It's like when I'm focusing on, say, a particular top position for that month, basically what I've dialed it down to is this. I just tell my guys, look, when you are on top, we follow the combat-based rules, right? When you're on top, stay on top. Number one, be the person on top. Number two, when you're on top, stay on top. You know, this is what's been drilled into me over the years from Chris Howder, Combat Base. This is what, I'm affiliated with. So that concept does not change. Those fundamental rules for us do not change. Now, what I do differently now, or how I explain myself differently, is I say this: when you are on top, visualize your entire top position as a reconfiguration of a top ride. So I don't want you to focus on it being, I'm in mount, I'm in a cross body ride, I'm on this, I'm on that, I'm in north-south. Everything is a reconfiguration of a top ride. I go, if you are on top, stay on top. The way you stay on top is you keep riding. So embrace the ambiguity through a very simple concept of the entire top position is a top ride. Just look at it from a 360-degree angle and just ride it. And whatever joint you can get to ride that joint, pin it, and wrestle the shit out of them. Then what I noticed is when I took that basic concept, right, and this fundamental principle, Chris Howder's fundamental principle, when on top, stay on top. Now we graduate to the next step of everything is a reconfiguration of your top ride. Just reconfigure your top ride to find a joint to pin. I see the guys flowing now and moving so much better because they're not saying, I need to get to mount. I need to get to this. I need to get to that. They are already exactly where they need to be. So instead of them thinking they need to get to this, hey, you're already in your top ride. Keep riding. If they get to their knees, get behind their hips, ride them from the back, get that crab ride, set it up, grab a hand if you can, and you get behind them and just keep riding. Then it builds their confidence where they're like, oh shit, I can just be on top forever. Yes, you can. If you realize you don't have to jump to a particular position and you're in trouble, you're just riding. And conversely, it's the same thing. If they're on the bottom, I tell them, when you are stuck on the bottom, you need to get up. You need to wrestle out, wrestle up. So everything on the bottom, look at it as some type of configuration of somebody trying to pin you. They're just reconfiguring a pin. So if you realize you're getting pinned, get the hell up now. Wrestle out, wrestle, and that's our concept. Wrestle out, because we have to. When I use the term wrestle out, I want them to disengage. Now, I don't tell them specifically how they need to disengage, but they need to disengage with certain fundamental technical principles, right, of how they pivot and stuff like that. But they need to wrestle out and then wrestle up and back into their top position. And when we just drill this conceptually over and over and over again, to your point, Adam, it's amazing the difference that I've seen. Absolutely amazing.
100%. Because you're not, how best to explain this? Sorry for the delay, guys. It is 3 a.m. here. The best way I can explain it is kind of like I'm not getting weighed down by the constructs of position. Yeah. As you said, if somebody's in side control and then they side sit out, north, south, and they do this whole going round the clock, and they think this is the way that they have to get to these positions, as opposed to, as you said, and that's exactly correct. It's just a top ride. It doesn't matter what position you're in. It's just a top ride. Adjust your weight. They move, you move. They move, you move. Shut them down. Yeah, you can teach that to someone. All the other stuff just happens naturally. Yeah, you can do the drill and teach people those positions, because I do that too. I still teach people around the clock position, around the world, whatever you want to call it. Side control, side sit out, north, south, reverse, side sit out, etc., etc. It teaches them how to hold that position. Yeah, but there's no ambiguity to it. It doesn't teach them how to maintain or transition very smoothly and well between those positions. That's the thing. Like, I really think that it'd be great if listeners, no matter their rank, no matter whatever it is that they do, understood that good grappling is in the grey area. Basically, your good grappling is not when you're in a good position holding a position. Yeah, because that person's working to get out of it then. You have the dominant position. It's how did you go from one dominant position to the other dominant position without that person being able to reverse the situation, better their position. Yeah, and exactly what you're saying, Brian, the concept of it's a top ride. Don't worry about what way you're facing. It's a top ride. That's it. Just think of it like that. Keep that base adjusted, keep holding them down. That's all you need to do. Yeah, and then that grey area, that ambiguous grey area, becomes home. Yeah, everything is going in that grey area. I'm not consolidating side control for no reason. I'm not consolidating north-south because that's the position that I need to be in. No, I don't care if you're like 3/4 of the way around, halfway around. It doesn't matter. As long as you have the weight transferring to them to hold them down, you're top heavy. That's it. That's all I need you to do. And that's an understanding, yeah, that's that grey area, that ambiguous grey area. And if we can put it to people like that, I guess to listeners, what do I really mean when I talk about ambiguity in grappling? Is the grey areas of grappling. Yeah, not those static cement-like postures where this position is that, this position is that. That's great to know how to do them. Yes, I guess it's like the whole thing we talk about, Brian, with our when we discuss instructionals and stuff like that, so many catch wrestlers and jiu-jitsu guys and stuff like that can show you 450 submissions. They can't show me how to wrestle into one of them.
Yeah.
That's the grey area, right? That's what we're talking about. That grey area is the important part.
It's interesting that you say that, because I can't tell you how many seminars I've been to from the top grapplers, or this champion or that champion, because, look, at the end of the day, everybody thinks that if they learn the technique of the champion, they're going to be the champion, which couldn't be further from the truth. It couldn't be further from the truth. You want to get like a XYZ champion, go learn from their coach.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry, it is what it is. But what was funny is every time I would ask them, okay, that's a cool technique, but how do you get there?
Yeah, and they can't tell
Only
you.
100% of the time, they can't tell you.
No, they can't. And I guess that's the sad thing, because it is no longer. People are so stuck in structure. That's what it appears to me in modern grappling. And I guess it's to do with, set curriculums now by a lot of teams and stuff like that have a set curriculum as to what they feel is a belt standard. That they honestly, it appears a lot of them forget that grey area. If you can show me 6 different ways to do an armbar, purple belt, no problem. You can't even show me how to get them onto the ground from a standing position to get into a position on the ground in order to facilitate one armbar. But you can show me 6 and you're a purple belt. I don't get it. And I never have got it, and I probably never will get it. And that's okay. I don't have to. At my gym, it's done the opposite. If you can show me one good armbar that you consistently wrestle into against higher level opponents, resisting opponents, good opponents, that's where I look to your rank. I can always show you the 6 different armbars later. Yeah, I'd rather you could wrestle anyone into a position in order to perform one armbar successfully and repeatedly, than show me 6 where you can't wrestle someone into it. To me, the person who can successfully wrestle any opponent into one armbar is far more advanced as a grappler than someone who can show me 6 armbars with a non-resisting, non-active opponent.
Agreed.
And that being said, that dictates right there how ambiguous grappling actually is by nature.
Yeah. And I was just thinking of this right now when you were saying that, because you really kind of like turned my light on. There's been a lot of people would say years ago when Rickson Gracie was fighting, they thought like he would have all these like top level champions in there. And it wasn't the case at all. And they were like, who are you fighting with or who are you training with? He's like, I just train with my white belt students. And as you're talking, Adam, it gets me to thinking he's building ambiguity and building his timing through the random chance of how spazzy and erratic white belts are. So you're able to, it's like you're almost able to refine your gray areas the more time you spend working with people that are not so refined.
Of course. To deal with the classic spazzy white belt, especially one that's 220 pounds or something, 250 pounds. White belt that wrestled a little bit in high school or in the States or did judo here. Dealing with those guys and some of the incredibly irrational things that they do in movement and stuff like that really improves your grey areas and your grappling in general far more than wrestling with a really smooth black belt. If you're at a black belt level, I would say. Like a really
Yeah, I
smooth
agree.
black belt is going to destroy everybody that's below him or should. But, two black belts together is not going to create the irrational movement and stuff. You're never going to get a really well-seasoned grappler of any sort, black belt or not, even wrestlers, that I do something, you're going to go in a totally unpredictable, dangerous, crazy way as much as you're going to
Exactly.
get it with white belts that go, I can get out of that.
It's funny you say that because I always like going, okay, I just need to be safe right now. I go, I need just like a black belt or a brown belt to roll around with, because that's what's just like, okay, I just want, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. When you get to a particular level, when you're at, like, say, the black belt level, we get to the point where a lot of times we don't want to train with that ambiguity because especially when you're at the black belt level, you're so refined and traditionally you're so predictable. You're like, okay, hey, I want that. Yeah, I like this guy's game. I know exactly what he's doing. You flow through it one time, you know exactly what it is. He does this to this to this to this. Let me go with him because it's safe. When it's predictable, it's safe. And especially like you're saying, Adam, that type of really refined technique. There's no gray area there. It's just like, yeah, okay, you're just going, right? It's just smooth roll,
Yeah. And
but then we
you tend to be at that
go ahead.
level, like trying to look after each other as well.
Absolutely.
At that level, you're going,
Because you feel it. You're like, okay, we got this. Let's just go.
we'll just train and we'll go with this. We know what's happening. Yeah, we're good. But the problem with that too, in my opinion, where people at the black belt level and stuff start to veer away from training with the spazzy white belts, the wrestlers, the D1 wrestlers that are now white belts in the jiu-jitsu class. The black belts sort of go, yeah, we'll just train over here with each other and we'll have a roll and it'll be cool, and then we'll sit around and have a chat after that roll and then we'll roll again. They're losing an opportunity to build a relationship with ambiguity, in this sense, crazy white belts that do weird ass shit that no black belt would ever think of doing because it's dangerous, it's nuts. It's like, what the hell? You're going to break your own arm. Yeah, but a white belt doesn't care. They're going for it, man. That's just how they are. And so I think every higher level grappler, whether there's a belt system in your system or not, if you're a higher level guy and you know what you're doing, you should always train with someone who's new and learning, because they are going to make you think. They really are. Even now, they make you think, especially if you've got someone, as I say, 220, 230, who's fit, strong, young. Me, yeah, I'm at 220, but I'm 53. Broke my neck twice, broken back. If I wrestle guys that are 25, that are 220, sort of a little bit, done some judo, they're always a handful. And black belts all over the world may not want to hear that. Oh, no, don't say that. We're black belts. Rubbish. They're a handful. They do weird shit. They're fit. They're strong. They do weird shit. They make you work. They may not make you work technically. They make you work mentally. Yeah. They make you work in different ways. And that is only beneficial to any grappler, because they will elevate the grey areas far more than any other black belt will. White belts, even blue belts. Yeah, because they haven't really grasped how to be smooth and really, funnel it down into what they're doing. They're sort of still like all over the place. They're just a little bit more dangerous because they know a few more submissions and they've watched a lot more YouTube, So, but even those guys, white belts, blue belts that are young, fit, strong, they can be a handful. And, we all know that the ego guys out there with the black belt round their waist will go, no, they're not. You're not a good black belt if they give you a hard time. Rubbish. Rubbish. They give you a hard time not because they're better at jiu-jitsu, not because they're better at grappling. They give you a hard time because they make you think outside the construct that you've been in for the last 20 years.
Mm.
Yeah? They think outside the box because they haven't seen the box yet. Yeah, so you're dealing with stuff that you would deal with from everyday Joe Blow who doesn't do jiu-jitsu. It makes you think.
Mhm.
It reminds you that fighting, in its essence, is ambiguous, unpredictable, dangerous, crazy, nuts. It's all good to be a black belt and walk around going, I'm a black belt, I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. Great, I'm happy for you. It means that you've dedicated your time to this. But are you an active black belt? And people will say, yeah, I compete all the time. That's not active to me. That's a competitive black belt. An active black belt is someone who's always putting themselves in that grey area to consistently, and that's what I call pressure testing. Yeah,
Mhm.
you want to pressure test something, put it against someone who's unpredictable, who's not going to do what you expect them to do, who's going to be ambiguous because they don't even know that they're being ambiguous. They don't have to think about it. They just do weird shit because they don't know any different. Add that to youth, fitness, and strength. Any black belt should have a problem with that. Not physically, not that they should beat you or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But it should be a problem that makes your brain go, oh, hang on a sec, and adjust. Get back into the grey areas of grappling. And white belts, especially as the term is spazzy white belts, will make you do that. They will.
I think you nailed it on the head with that one. So I think, you've kind of really touched on a lot of aspects of this, the ambiguous nature of grappling. And I think a key takeaway here is we need to just embrace it. You know,
100%.
it's one of those things we don't have to shy away from the ambiguity, embrace it, and then realize that as much as there's gray area, we can see how much commonality there is also. Because if we start to tease out different styles, I don't care if we're looking at catch versus BJJ, luta livre, freestyle, folk style, judo. When you start looking at all these things, you see common threads. The common threads are, we have the concepts, right? And certain fundamentals where everybody kind of embraces and I should preface it by saying this, when you move the rule set either wider or eliminate the rule set and just look at each one of these arts in terms of their intent, you see a tremendous amount of overlap,
100%.
right? Even with the old, dare I say, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or whatever you want to call it, the idea was to get on the inside, clinch, take down, mount. That had nothing to do with what we see today of bend over at the waist, jump around, pull guard, sit on your ass, go for a toe hold and get somebody on top of you, pull somebody on top of you. It's complete antithesis of what its intent was. So we can see that, you know, dissecting these different arts based on the rule set. This is where we see, okay, well, these guys favor this, these guys favor this, everybody favors something. But then when we just kind of broaden out and really embrace that gray area, embrace the ambiguity of grappling, it's all wrestling. It's just what's your flavor of wrestling? And that goes
Basically,
back to, hundreds of years ago and then thousands of years ago. This is why I always get on when somebody tries to claim an entire continent of their style of wrestling. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as I'm a European catch wrestler. No. Why? England has, I don't know how many different styles of grappling, right? You have the Cornish, the Welsh, you have the catch as catch can, which comes from Lancashire. That's all different. Polish had their style. French had their style. Germany had their style. So each little region had their own style of wrestling. So why do we call Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Because they wanted to codify. They didn't say we do South American Jiu-Jitsu or we do South American Judo. It's like
Yeah.
everything's like everything has its things, its little specialty. But we need to embrace I think, like you're saying, Adam, we need to embrace those gray areas and just kind of enjoy it.
And that would be what I say is the definition of ambiguity in grappling. Yeah. Wrestling, grappling in those grey areas. Those transitional areas is where grappling is made. Good grappling is done in the transitional areas, not in positions, not in submissions.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part. Refining yourself in those gray areas, in those transitions, that is actually the hardest part. I always say to I guess my funnel right now is I have blue belts, a lot of blue belts, right? And I always tell them the same thing. Okay, you guys know enough moves. I don't need to teach you any moves. Now I need you to work on these refinement of the transition, the gray areas, and understand how to put the concepts together.
Yeah, and it goes to that saying, doesn't it? There's no such thing as a black belt technique. There's white belt techniques done at a black belt level.
Exactly.
Yeah, by blue belt, you should know most of the holds and techniques in jiu-jitsu. If you don't know 90 to 95% of the submissions that are around in Brazilian jiu-jitsu are part of that system, by the time you're a blue belt, I would say somebody's holding out on you. Yeah, from blue belt onwards, and what separates a blue belt to a black belt isn't the techniques that they know. Yes, look, over a period of time, before everybody jumps on and goes crazy, over a period of time, you're going to pick up more techniques. Yeah, you're going to pick up different variations and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, an armbar's an armbar. A rear naked's a rear naked. A triangle's a triangle. A Kimura or an Americana. They're always the same. Omoplatas. All these things, by blue belt, you should know them. The difference is the grey area. That's what separates a blue belt from a black belt. It's that grey area. How smoothly do they transition to those techniques? Yeah, how quickly can they facilitate in their brain, dun, 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 this is what needs to happen for me to get there. 10 steps ahead. That's grey area. It hasn't happened yet. I'm transitioning to it. That's that grey area that we're talking about. That's the ambiguity that matters.
It's very much like, to use a Star Wars analogy, it's like using the Force, right? You have to search your feelings and use the Force. It's like, it's a feeling that you have to kind of dial it in, but it's more like an internal state to be aware of versus I think, dude, you're just getting on something that's so philosophical here. It's hard to teach ambiguity, right? Because people are trying to have a tactile sensation for that breath between the breath, that state, that transitional state where I can't tell you, put your arm like this, put your leg like this, look over your shoulder and twist. I can't tell you that.
It is. It's tactile and it's experiential. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. That's where you become a seasoned grappler. You become a high-level grappler, is where you have enough of that experiential understanding of that space between things, a liminal space, for want of a better term, that liminal space between situations, that you become so good at it that it's second nature. You've experienced for so long. This is what defines a higher level grappler than a lower level grappler. It's what it is. It's 100%. I truly believe it's what it is. That grey area, the space between positions, between submissions, between transitions, yeah, even between transitions. that point from where I start to move to where I finish the move and everything in between, there's many, many micro moments of liminal space. Yeah, the little weight adjustments and what I do in between those weight adjustments as I'm starting to move. It's like almost looking into two mirrors, to infinitum. Honestly, it is. And these areas are so ambiguous, yet you'll never nail them down. And when people understand that and about how it works in that grey area, that's where people's grappling will excel.
I like that. Let's leave it at that. So I think we gave the audience a lot to think about this week.
Hopefully we fried their brains.
Yeah, you definitely fried mine. It's a lot. I mean, it's one of those things where to articulate this to a student, it's almost impossible. And I think today we did the best that we could to get them to understand. But this is one of those ones they're going to have to listen to this episode several times and take notes.
Yeah.
Because you're going to miss it. This has nothing to do with learning a particular move a particular way. You need to embrace this, what we talked about this week, and really dial it in. That's what's going to allow you your growth. All right. Well, make sure you guys follow our sponsors, like and subscribe. Okay. So we got roadgears.com. That's ROADGEARZ.com. Discount code LUG. Right. SpartanCans.com. Discount code LUG. RejuveAntiAging.com. If you need your shoulders fixed like I did, the stem cells, go get some stem cells with Jason Hughes at Rejuve Anti-Aging in Rancho Santa Margarita, California. We do have new sponsors coming on within the next month here, so be on the alert. And we've got a lot of stuff that's going to blow your mind. So just sit tight, sit back and relax and stay training. With that, guys, we are out of here.